it's Karen Burniston here with an assembly video for one of our die sets. This is die number 1089, the Rockin Rectangle pop-up, and you can check out all of our die designs at karenburniston.com. So what's great about the Rockin Rectangle is that it is completely generic and has a super fun action to it. Now I love this die for making window cards, so you get a little glimpse of the scene through the window, and then when you open it, that rectangle is going to pop up and out and rock a little bit as the card is opened and closed. So I will demonstrate how to make a window card today, but of course you do not have to make a window card with this die. There are 9 dies in the set and you choose your card size. You do really need a minimum of an A2 size card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 when folded. So for this one I started with 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, scored it in the middle for folding, and added a couple panels of a pattern paper. It's just an older one from my stash. And since I know that I want to make a window card, I'm going to start with that portion. And I'll use the big scalloped rectangle first. I'm going to use some temporary tape to put that in place, making sure I leave a little bit of space between the edge of that scalloped rectangle and the side of the card. Now the window itself is going to be the smallest of those long rectangles, but by putting the scalloped one in place, I can make sure that I get a good placement on my small one. Okay, so I need to open this card up because I only want to cut through 1/2 of the card. It does have 2 layers because it has the pattern paper on it, so as I roll it through my machine, I'm just going to roll back through. You can use any die cutting machine that can accommodate a wafer thin die, and today I am using a Sizzix Big Shot. Okay, so now I have my window and I'm ready for the pop-up. I definitely recommend cardstock for these 2 pieces. I'm using just a standard 80-pound cardstock today. You could even jump up to 100-pound. So these 2 pieces combine to become the pop-up mechanism. And if you start with a long piece, there are 3 folds in it. The one next to the tapered tab will be a mountain fold, followed by a valley fold, followed by a mountain fold. So essentially accordion folding it. Starting with a mountain, that means you're folding away from yourself, valley, and then mountain. Then on this piece that makes the under supports, you would first fold in the wings because those get glued down. Those are essentially just to make sure that those 2 arms can't bend, that they're nice and strong underneath the pop-up. So I recommend a strong adhesive. That can be a really good double-sided tape, or you can use glue. I'm using my Lineco neutral pH adhesive in my fine tip bottle, and we do sell both of those items on our website. And then there are also score lines next to the 2 small tabs and along the long piece at the bottom. The tabs on this piece are going to go through the slots on the other piece, but in order to make that happen, one side of the tab needs to be folded in temporarily. It does not matter which side of the tab you fold in, just enough to be able to get that tab through the slot on the other piece. Okay, so from underneath the other piece, you want to put each tab through its respective slot. And so the easiest way to do that is to hook in the side you didn't fold in, and then get the rest of the tab through the slot and then unfold that little tab. And that will lock it into position, and then just do the same with the other slot. So hook the side that doesn't have the fold in, then pull it through and unfold. So each of those tabs is going to get glued down. And actually my favorite way to do that is to fold up the piece, and that way I can make sure that the ends sticking out are nice and straight before I glue down the tabs. So there's just a little bit of wiggle room from doing those tabs, and it's a good idea to make sure that everything looks nice and straight before you glue down the tabs. And then after getting the first tab glued down, I can pick the piece up, flip this section over so that I have access to the interior tab, lift it up, and glue it down. And that is all there is to it on the pop-up mechanism. You can see that when we get this installed inside the card, as you open the card, it will pull that piece up. Now I can go ahead and install that mechanism inside the card. And the way I do that is I attach that tapered tab to the left side of the fold so that the end of the tab is right in the fold of the card. Once again, you'll want a strong adhesive. You can choose your location along the fold, and for my little window card today, I'm just going to center it. So I want to make sure the end of the tapered tab is right in the fold of the card, and then just making sure everything looks nice and straight, I can press that tab down. The other side of this mechanism will eventually attach to the other side of the card, but to find the perfect location, it's easiest to do that on this left side of the card by tucking under the mechanism. That will allow me to see the other tab. It'll be right here. It'll be very close to the edge of the card if you're doing an A2 size card, but it will be within the card limits. And making sure everything stays nice and flat, I just want to close the right side of the card against that exposed adhesive. And then since I am using glue, I'll just be a little cautious the first time I open it. Just make sure that glue has set up. Sometimes I even like to hold that tab while I do it, just make sure. Now right now I've got the window and that's going to catch my mechanism, but you can see how it's going to work. The first bit of decorating I'll do is to grab the 2 dies that fit the mechanism to decorate it. That little piece can go in there and it'll cover up that tab so you won't see it. And then there is also a long rectangle. That's actually the same die I used for the window, and that is sized to fit on the long part of the mechanism to also give it that little shadow. And I do recommend that you always plan to add those 2 pieces to your card. It really helps with the mechanism to become stronger, unless you were using an extremely stiff cardstock for the base mechanism. And at this point, give no worry to the fact that it doesn't want to close up on its own without you helping it. And that would be true even if you didn't have a window. It's the rectangle being added to the top that helps it slide in close. So just give it a little help as you close it until you get that rectangle on. Okay, since I'm doing a window card, I'm going to switch to the front of the card right now and do a little bit of work on the window. First, I'll add a piece of pattern paper decoratively to the space that doesn't have the window. And then I'm just adding a tape runner around the window opening and then adding a rectangle of transparency. And do make sure that that mechanism is tucked inside the card as you do that. These 3 dies can be nested together in various ways to make different frames. So I'll start first by using the scalloped rectangle and that small one to make a wide frame for the front of the card. Once the window pane is on, I no longer have to worry about the mechanism coming through the window, but it still may need a little bit of a push to close on its own until you get the decorator rectangle added. And for that piece, I will stack up the 3 largest rectangles. Now I can place that face down and look through the window if, for instance, I had something on that rectangle that I wanted to make sure was centered in the opening. The adhesive goes on top of the mechanism, and then you can kind of close, tuck in, and then just make sure that your rectangle stays straight and within the card as you give it a good press against that mechanism. Once that rectangle is on, then you no longer have to help the mechanism. The rectangle will do that work for you. As it hits the card, it'll slide right in. Now, because that edge of the rectangle does have to slide in against the card as it closes, you have to be careful of catch points. However, a small window frame has not been a problem in an A2 card. And I'll also add that same small frame to the front of the card for decoration. One of the border dies in the Border Blends Argyle set has a little wavy texture that you can also slide a piece through the die if you only want to cut one edge. And so my thought was to use this to get like a grass texture that I could add to my rectangle inside the card. Now I'll turn to a couple of our animal dies, and I've assembled a chick from the spring animals and a turkey from the feathered animals. And then to dress them up for a day of shopping, I went with the outfit from Tiny Accessories 2 that includes the pillbox hat, the glasses, the pearls, and the purse. And then I'll just attach them to the rectangle so that you can see them when the card is closed. There are 2 decorator dies left in the set that I haven't used yet, and they are the sequins and the oval. And what I did for the greeting is I actually printed it with my computer, what's the word bird, and then used the oval die to cut it out. This die cuts 4 sequins at a time. 2 of them are a little bit bigger than the other 2, and they look particularly realistic when you do them out of a metallic cardstock, but you just want to go in there on the score lines. There's 6 score lines around the piece, and just bend them all upward a little bit. And then I just sprinkled my sequins throughout the card. Now for the front of the card, I added the word hello. It came from word set 6. And then my what's the word bird greeting oval just fits perfectly on the pop-up arm. My finished card folds nice and flat. It'll mail easily in an A2 envelope for no additional postage. Now you may be wondering, could I turn this and do a sideways A2 card with a horizontal rectangle? And the answer is definitely yes, and especially if you are not doing a window card. However, if you're going to do a window card, just be aware I did discover there's a pretty good little catch point on the edge of the window frame. It tends to want to catch the edge of the horizontal rectangle, whereas that is not an issue when you're doing a vertical rectangle. My solution was to add the oval over the catch point, but making sure it was completely flat. So I had to inlay that tulip from the garden charm so that I wouldn't create a new catch point. If you don't want to have to look for those kind of creative solutions, just stick with vertical rectangles when you want to make a window card. We are blessed with an extremely talented design team, and they have been rockin' the Rockin' rectangle. I love this Vibrant Valentine by Karen Aiken, where she shows the new ostrich on the rectangle. On this Super Friend card by Kelly Booth, she also used the ostrich and the owl, and they are dressed as superheroes from the Tiny Accessories too. I love this idea by Summerhill's Painter, where she took the decorator pieces from our Ice Cream Sundae pop-up and used them to accessorize her Rockin' rectangle. And this is a great example of not having a window in your card. Frances Byrne turned the card so that it would be top fold and she would have a horizontal rectangle to highlight some stamps. Lois Bach made a double rocker card in a tropical theme, and she swapped out to squares so that she could fit them both in the card. The Rockin' Rectangle pop-up die set will be available on our website as well as at a lot of your favorite local and online retailers starting the end of January 2019. Thanks for watching. If you click on the website link, you'll go to KarenBurniston.com, where you can find out information about purchasing these dies as well as links to all my other social media accounts. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and check out some of my other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.